Hello, everyone. And I'm pretty sure that at least once in your professional career, you encountered with the issue yourself, or maybe your colleagues or your environment, where you are being a highly motivated employee, delivering the very qualitative results, doing everything on time, but not being promoted. And you are trying to be a career runner, but you cannot bypass that ceiling. And today I would like to discuss about 5 mentor-based practices that would for sure help you to elevate your career. And this is not just the practices that I read from the books. This is the practices that I went through my entire career, that I was experiencing myself through the pain or through some difficulties. And of course, we were also applying it together with my mentees in my mentor programs. If you didn't know that, I'm also doing a lot of mentorship programs on voluntarily basis, on a commercial basis. I just want to let you know. But now I want to deep dive into the most important topics. So let's get started with the point number 1, and I will take my notes. You know, I am an old school person. So, the first and all of these 5 methods or methodologies, they are helping you to not just to build up the career as a disclaimer, but also to move from just an operational execution, not executive execution role, but towards something more. So I'm pretty sure that once in a while you're feeling demotivated, that you want to be promoted, you want to get the better or more interesting task, less execution based. So practice number 1, it's strategic self-positioning. It's always start with you. It always starts the how you will enter the room. It's always the start with the first impression. As the very great Coco Chanel was saying, you would never have the second chance to make the first impression. And that's, I believe, very, very much, even though it sounds unfair, but that's how it is. That's why you need to be very, very careful, but also still be so much ready to deep dive and to open the door and to show up and to show to this world that you are present and you are ready for the next move. So we are being professionals, and especially professionals in the internal audit, internal controls, we like to do, we're doers. And sometimes we're describing our role with the task, with the deliverables. And that's the main point. So, as I said, we are making the wrong impression. We're making the impression that we are doers. Then you might ask me that, okay, but that's we need those executors. We need the people who do the stuff, who not just talking but doing. That's right. But we're saying about the self-positioning. You don't want to be perceived as an executor, don't you? And that's why we need to describe our role in a more in a more strategic. So never describe your role from the perspective of the deliverables. Instead of saying I'm an auditor, or I am designing the controls, or I'm closing the books if you are accountant. So that's a mistake. Of course you do that, but how it sounds in the ears of your audience, and especially in the executive leadership, that's not that I want to hear, and that's not something that they would value and appreciate. So instead of this, you need to talk from the perspective of value preposition. So I'm unlocking the potential, or I'm ensuring the governance, or I am creating the streamlined process that would deliver us XYZ. So you always need to speak from the perspective what the benefit will be brought to the organization, to the department, to the area that you are working at. Because the designing the controls itself as a task doesn't bring the added value. And for those who does not understand what does it mean and what does it entail, it doesn't sound very beneficial. And then, okay, this person might not have a right voice at the table. That person might not need to be seated here. So I always like to say that we start with role, who you are in the environment, then we saying the impact, what kind of impact you are delivering, then a differentiator, what kind of differentiation you do, why you are different from other people. Maybe you do something that, again, unlocking the potential or avoiding the compliance gaps, etc. And here, that's also the trick, that you don't need to say that you do the best presentation. So don't go to that level. It might be true, but then don't go to that level. And of course, we always need to translate into the business value. That's the most important task, because the CXO, the CFO, and the executive management that hear that language. Of course, for the internal controls, internal auditors, it's very difficult to translate that, but you need to think how you can show that how you do influence decisions, how you make more streamlined processes, how you are designing the processes that make the impact. So making those invisible things more visible. So the method number 2, it will be about the opportunity architecture. And I like to use the word architecture because it is about the design. And there is a very, very good phrase that I really like to adhere to. It's opportunities are not given, they're engineered. And of course, we always need to be mindful about not over-engineering. But I strongly believe, and that's something that I proved myself right, that if we want to do some projects, but no one is empowering us, we need to do everything what is possible to put ourselves in that project. We shouldn't wait until our manager or whoever, like influencer, would just ask us to do so. We need to engineer them. So then we are engineering the opportunities. So, and that this method, again, with the practice, I developed through these 2 steps. The step number 1 is to map ecosystem. So it doesn't matter whether you are at the first time at your work, you are just a newcomer, or you are stepping into the new role in already current organization, or you're sitting in the same role, but you want to change something. So you need to map the ecosystem. What does it mean? You need to clearly know who has the power, who needs the support, who feels pain about all the inefficiencies, and who influence decisions informally. Here, the very important point, who, like informally, because you need to, in order to implement something, we need to think about the change management. So in order to engineer this, the project and this, the solution that would help you to elevate your career, because how we grow if we deliver some added value. So the manager would never consider to promote you if the manager doesn't see the, in general, I'm just saying that as a disclaimer, in general, if the manager doesn't see the added value in your role, or maybe if manager is also utilizing your current capabilities because it's comfortable that in your current role. So I'm thinking more about the first, because then where you can basically present and engineer your project. So it doesn't mean that this project exists, and it doesn't mean that you need to create something which doesn't make sense and which bring inefficiency. No one is going to promote you for that. But if you do something that would really matters, you need to think about what is really ineffective in the organization, in the department, in the industry that you are operating in. Again, who needs support in your organization? Who feels pain of these inefficiencies? who has the power, like a true power, like a true delegation or of authority, and who has the influence, who can influence the decision informally. That's what you need to know. Then when you identify that, so you basically map out your ecosystem, you need to identify the silent problem. So then you understand, okay, for instance, there is a, and it shouldn't be something super, like, you know, strategic. Of course, if you find something super strategic, then you will have a bigger chances to be promoted on a more senior role. But if you see that there is a really something that could be fixed and no one is fixing, no one is looking into that. So then, based on the mapping of your ecosystem, you identified that, for instance, the agreements are being signed not digitally. So you are trying to fix it and you have already in-house development, or maybe you can team up with IT. Of course, I'm not talking that you need to engage with your supervisor, get the buy-in, etc., etc. So we're not talking about this. I'm just framing the context. And the step number 3, it's position yourself as the solution. So the first, we are defining the problem statement, right? And then we are part of the solution. I like the phrase where it said, if you are not a solution, you're a problem. And no one likes problem, and especially the managers. So that's why position yourself in that problem, that, okay, you see, you didn't see the problem. I found it and I frame it, I put it as a problem statement, and then I solve it, or going to solve, this is my plan. And once you solve it, of course, you need to showcase some results. That's not about only, blah, blah, blah. It's important to remember. Then you would have a bigger chances to be promoted, or if you are not promoted, then you will be valued more, and then perhaps you will be shortlisted for the promotion. Or then you can go to another organization if you are not being valued in this organization, and showcase it that you solved XYZ, and then you can get a raise over there. So the practice number 2 is leading to the practice number 3, which is upgraded decisions making. In order to also to decide, for instance, if there is an opportunity for you to be a part of some of the very important or maybe less important strategic projects or less strategic projects, which also, as we understood from the previous method, would elevate or would give you a biggest opportunity to elevate your career, you need to know how you do the decisions, how you take decisions, whether you will be a part of that project or not. So in this, I'm calling it three-layer decisions making process. So the first, it's a fast decisions. So basically, they are very quick, they're fast. This is something that you can do immediately. So there are no that risk. It's not heavy. For instance, you can do like a presentation. So they're asking you to, in a short term, to do something that you can see that would somehow make your presence a little bit more valuable, or you will get to know other stakeholders. So you're saying yes immediately to that. So there are no risks, there are some opportunities. Yes, there is they are reversible. You're not either losing or taking the new roles, so it's a safe place, but you will have more benefits out of this. Maybe you will learn a new skill set. So say it immediately. The second part is the strategic decisions. So those decisions that are you need to those so this then the second one is the strategic the second is the strategic decisions. And the strategic decisions, they will lead you to elevate also your skill set, where you are just not just trying to showcase your technical skills, but a little bit more strategic. So here you need to think, okay, where I will grow, because from the first, it's just a fast. You're not learning a lot. You're just showcasing. That's it. But the second, strategic decisions. So you need to think, okay, how it will help me to grow, how I will get more knowledge. Maybe I will learn more people, maybe I would influence more people, maybe I would create a networking, maybe I will travel because I will have more business travels. Whatever you have as a strategic goal, that's the second layer. And the third layer is the in the strategic decisions, it's always need to calculate the opportunity cost. So if you start doing that, what you will lose if, you know, in your current position, that's like most and foremost important. And the third level of decisions is identity decisions. So those decisions that are the most important because they will shape who you are going to be after you execute the project. So for instance, you are doing the project which is SAP implementation, then you would understand, okay, I would be either project manager in the SAP, then, or I will have the opportunity to showcase in my CV that I am the SAP expert or SAP implementation expert. So it's a completely different setup. And just as a last but important thing is, we know, like, no hard work create the add value, to be honest. So unfortunately, even though we need to work hard, but the not hard work create the opportunities. So you need to understand that. And again, don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that you don't need to work hard, but you don't need to work hard to be promoted. You can work hard already when you have that opportunity, when you went through all this decision-making process, but just the hard work itself would not create that opportunity. I hope it makes sense, at least for me. The first method perhaps would not be a surprise. I will talk about the communication. Communication is the most important. It is important on the lower level, in the entry job. It is important, especially utmost important if you want to grow in your career, and if you are already occupying some managerial roles or people management roles. So communication, it's not just a soft skill, it's the necessity, it's the opportunity for you to be promoted. It's opportunity for you to be heard, to be visible, the visibility, promotion, and also the networking, which is very much important whenever you're growing or you are becoming a manager or you're going to elevate your career. So the communication itself, it's not only about to show the beautiful presentation. Sometimes people are mixing those two things. So it is about whenever you are in the meeting, you need to show that you are present. So once I heard that if you just, attended the meeting and you didn't say anything, you're either the meeting tourist, which is not a good thing. Sometimes it happens in the corporate world, or you just miss the opportunity to showcase yourself. So that means that like 1 hour meeting or 30 minutes meetings with the especially important stakeholders, you just miss the opportunity to show, to tell something that could, draw up the attention. Sometimes it's just a small thing. Sometimes it's just that CFO will hear, what did you say? And it would make sense in his opinion, or it will be powerful, it will be very special. And then he would remember that. And whenever he would be referring to your manager, he would be saying, oh, I remember that guy. He perhaps is good in governance or internal controls, because at that time he just, explained it so easily and understandable for all the broader audience. So always say what it matters, especially if it is the meeting with the executive. We need to be super specific and to the point. That's why the preparation is very important. Of course, if you don't have an opinion about the subject, I would suggest do not express it. Or if you have just a broader opinion, that's also not a good idea just to express it unless you've been asked. then of course it's better not to keep a silence, but say really what it matters. Like, of course, if we're discussing about the policies and the procedures, then you would ask the question, or you would just point out the problem. So of course that requires the mindset. It requires also that you know the subject, but we're also talking about that you're ready for the next move, right? And always, no matter what the position you are occupying and what are you doing, you always need to think, what can I say that it really matters for this audience and for this particular subject. So another point is you need to give a signal. So you need to point out or highlight some things. So not just sharing the opinion or asking the questions, but you need to signal something. There is always something like a risk related, or some concerns, or some pitfalls, or some ideas. So you need to signal that. So if you see that, okay, that could be solved this way, you need to signal it. Of course, still remember that we say what it matters, that we are not just, trying to take or hijack all this 30 minutes presentation or our meeting just to explain your idea, because it might be not relevant, but you need to signal that here and there a little bit, and then it will really make a difference, and that's quite powerful. And the third is the recommending the action. The recommending the action, it's super important, because one thing is stating the problem. Perhaps not everyone, but a lot of people have that ability to state the problem. Not everyone can provide the solutions. And again, you're either a solution or you're a problem. Be a solution. That's where you are bringing the added value. And the last but not least method, it's mentorship and your networking. Then this is really, really something that we are underestimating. Some of us, we definitely trying to explore our network because we see the opportunities there, but we are not exploring the mentor side. And here I'm talking where you are mentee. So even though every mentor needs to have another mentor, and that's true also for me, because we cannot estimate and evaluate ourselves like very, very in a standalone, and without putting a lot of identity into that analysis. And we will put a lot of myself into my analysis, which creates kind of conflict of interest. That's why we are not having the objectivity in that sense. So there are like many different types of mentors, and it depends what you need at the moment. So of course you can start with the skill mentor, who is somehow fulfilling or your gap in certain areas. So for instance, if you are new in the audit and you need to sharpen your skill set, then of course this skill mentor will be the best solution for you. So then you will of course somehow try to learn from the person who knows better, who more years than you in the field, who has got a lot of approaches and already learned by doing, and having a lot of lesson learned and expertise and experience. Then it's good to go you for the skill mentor. Then we have a strategy mentor. In general, it's not that mentor that you will be meeting again and again, and that could be the same mentor. So the same mentor can be a skill mentor and the strategy mentor. So sometimes we need to do the strategic session, like for instance, if we want to grow, when we want to move, or we want to do the sharp change in our life, then the strategy mentor would be the good opportunity for you. So my point is, you need to find a mentor for the purpose, which is fit for purpose. And then the mentor number 3, it's basically your sponsor. And it's good if you have that person who would be positioning you, who would be trying to somehow develop you, and not only develop you between one-on-one, which is like regularly mentor is doing, but also going out together with you. Basically, it's the best solution if you have sponsor within the organization. It could be your manager, then you're a lucky one. But if it's not, then you need to find the person who basically can present you, can show your value to the broader audience. And that's basically how we grow our networking, that someone is recommending or endorsing us. So you need to find those people around you. And it could be that you have a lot of sponsors, but you need to have at least one. And that's very, very important. Of course, whatever I have said today, perhaps sometimes it's very difficult to put in motion, but you need to start doing something. And then you will see that some of the steps you're already doing, some of the steps you probably are missing, and maybe that's a gap. But it's most and foremost important to remember that these techniques, they've been developed by the very knowledgeable and wise people who know something about the career development. Yes, and I always like to say there is a 72 or 48, depends on the mentorship program and the perspective, that you have always at least, it's the 72 hours rule, where you need to apply at least one approach. Otherwise, whatever you heard here perhaps doesn't make really sense, and you just spend time not wisely, and you could, I don't know, read a book, do something more interesting and more developing for you. So, but I hope it was interesting and it was really helpful for you, and you will definitely apply the 72-hour rule, and better to apply even the 48 hours rule. See you around. Bye.